WWE Survivor Series 2025 wrapped up this past weekend, and in this video, I'll break down the entire show, including some unanswered questions. Is 4 matches ever enough? Did we get our first look at the WrestleMania 42 main event? And what is the point of wargames?
Ladies and gentlemen.
What's up, world? Bright-eyed and bushy-tailed on a Monday morning. It's your boy Tommy on the spot for Watch Along Wrestling, and I'm a wrestling content creator from Long Island, New York. Thanks so much for checking out this video. Survivor Series was this past weekend. Overall, I had a great time with this show. I thought that this show was a lot of fun. I see a lot of hate for it. I try to avoid all of that before I dive into everything, but hey, it's holiday season. Lots of stuff going on with the kiddos over the weekend, so wasn't able to get to my thoughts on this here until Monday morning, but wanted to make sure I got it in here before Monday Night Raw. Overall, though, I thought this was a very fun show, highlighted, in my opinion, by the John Cena Dominik Mysterio match. I'll get to that in a bit, and I'll get to even my thoughts on the match in a bit. Let's talk about the entire Survivor Series, I guess going into the Survivor Series, because I think that's very important here. First and foremost, this felt like one of the most important shows in the world by the time the show started, and I think a lot of that has to do with this relationship between WWE and ESPN. This is a ton of fun. I'm watching college football on Saturday. It's tons of hype for WWE. All of the ESPN programming throughout the week, tons of hype for WWE. You have Stephen A. Smith chatting with WWE stars. You have all of this big-time hype being put behind WWE from ESPN, and I just think it's so cool. You go on ESPN.com, the number one story is wargames and Survivor Series coming up this Saturday, and that is in the middle of the final week of college football, getting ready for a huge week of the NFL. And I love it. What a cool time to be a fan of all things WWE. They had all these video packages. They had all these hype pieces. They had preview shows throughout the week. Just such a great job. That being said, I also think that wargames itself, especially in the middle of a baseball field there at Petco Park, so much fun. Like, it looked just like an absolute phenomenon, seeing this huge double ring with a double cage in the middle of a baseball stadium in a really cool city like San Diego. So in terms of the look and the feel of everything, I thought second to none. Just incredible job with the production. Thought everything was very cool. That being said, I can never justify a 4-match show. I understand each one of the wargames matches is lengthy. I'm going to get to that in a minute. But I do think 4 matches is just too small, especially when you had SmackDown, which was a taped SmackDown. I have a lot of issues with that SmackDown. I can go on for days about the idea that they built up a mystery guy and ends up being The Miz, who's on the roster, already in the tournament, and lost. Don't build up a mystery guy. Just say, hey, it's going to be The Miz who replaces him. And away we go. I understand they had to move fast. I understand, injuries happen, and I get that. But I thought that was far too much. But you had a great, traditional, really fun 20-minute traditional Survivor Series match featuring 10 guys that I think could have been on the Survivor Series show. Now, 4 matches, even though that is way too little, it's not like anyone was shortchanged. The show was over 3 hours in length. So for that perspective, I don't feel like anything was shortchanged, but I do think there's just a lot of pressure on the 4 matches on the show to over-deliver when you only have 4 matches. You can't make up for a dud on the show if there's only 4 matches on the show. I always feel like even if there's 2 Royal Rumbles, there should be 5 matches at a minimum on the show. And if there's not long matches on the show, there's no reason this should not be a 6-7 match card. I've always said that, and I think 4 matches is just too little. And a lot of this has to do, I'm a huge rigmarole guy. I love rigmarole. I could watch it all day long. And by that I mean, the hype pieces, the quote-unquote nonsense. I love all that. I've watched a lot of the hype stuff. I saw the Stephanie McMahon interview, the Becky Lynch interview, the Roman Reigns interview. I could take all of that in. I love it, and it's so much fun. But there's when you have a 2-hour hype piece, though, I don't think you then need probably 10 minutes, maybe more, between matches of all that stuff. You have it all in that 2-hour package there. So I don't know what the answer is, but I do think 4 matches is too little. And part of the fun of Survivor Series is great to see the stars. But part of the fun of Survivor Series is to see these mid-card feuds blown off or thrown together. And I really think there was a lot of fun to be had for a traditional Survivor Series match. It was so great to see them bring that back when they put it on a SmackDown, and a taped SmackDown, They didn't even give the people of San Diego an opportunity to go to a SmackDown the day before the show, just leaving money on the table, in my opinion, for people who had no issue. You had over 45,000 people over Thanksgiving weekend show up to the Survivor Series. I don't know how you don't at least give them a SmackDown to attend to. And if they don't go, they don't go. But I'm telling you, 45,000 people, 15,000 people or so would have been fine to jam-pack an arena to cheer on everyone and get ready for that on Black Friday. And, I think that evidence of that is the fact that they sold out a ton of meet and greets throughout the weekend, including a John Cena meet and greet that was over $450. So you had plenty of interest of people just like fiending for more WWE content. And then they, for some reason, taped a double SmackDown. I guess it's also you want to give the talent a couple days of Thanksgiving, but I don't know. I feel like Black Friday, you could have easily had a nice kickoff to the weekend, which you already had with the Superstore opening up and everything to that extent. But it is what it is. Overall, though, I did think going into the show, they did a great job with the hype. I think San Diego looked great. Superstore looked awesome. A lot of really cool pieces of footage I saw come out of that. It looked like just a massive building. And at the end of the day, I think it also harkens back to Triple H being such a fan of the War Games, an NWA fan growing up. I think he wants to give you every single thing possible you can get with this show to make it feel as big as possible, because I think he really loves the concept. So let's get to that concept. War Games, for me, as a WWE kid, what is the point? Why do we sit there? And I get that the idea is you're supposed to get everyone in the ring at some point, and you go, this is War Games, and everyone's there, and everyone's excited. But for me, I just you're sitting there forever until this thing officially starts. 5 minutes with the first two individuals in the ring, 3 minutes thereafter. So by the time you have 8 different people come into the ring, I guess 10 different people come into the ring, actually. You're starting with 2, then you have 8 different intervals. So you're looking at really a half an hour before the match even begins. And then once the match starts, it's like maybe an additional 10 minutes and you move on. And I just feel like I don't know what the answer is. I don't know if I really think you should tie in some eliminations. I think that would really add to it. I think the idea of Survivor Series, and one of the reasons that worked for so long and why I enjoyed the traditional Survivor Series matches, is for the idea of these folks coming together and overcoming the odds. So if you had somebody get eliminated and now it's 2-on-1, and now here they still have the advantage, now it's 3-on-1, and this one guy's doing everything he can to survive for 3 minutes till this next guy comes out. I think that at least builds up the drama with there being one guy from one team, one guy from my other team. Maybe it's my WWE bias, not growing up an NWA or a WCW fan, but this just felt like you're sitting there, you didn't, no reason to even watch. It was fun. The match, the action in the ring was good. Everyone was very talented. But for me, I was like, wow, there's no urgency to have to sit there and watch when it doesn't really start until 30 minutes in. So make a sandwich, go make dinner, take out the garbage, make sure the kids are in bed. I mean, tons of things you could do while all these matches are going on, and that's not fair to the talent. And I do think it takes away a lot of the sense of urgency of watching the match, enjoying the match, because nothing's really happening until it all comes in there. Again, it looks very impressive. It looks really cool. But you have somebody come in the ring, they have a weapon, and here they go. And I just don't know if long-term that's the idea. They always feel very big. It's always great to see such star power, huge amounts of star power in both matches, but it takes so long for things to really get going. And there's no stakes involved either. It's not like these were such deep-seated personal issues this year. In the past, they've done a very good job. Don't get me wrong. I thought the Bloodline stuff in 2022, very cool. It felt like the Judgment Day in 2023 was such a threat that Cody needed to go and bring in Randy Orton, and eventually Punk comes out. All really cool stuff. This year, it almost felt like, I think it also had to do with the Seth Rollins injury, but the woman in particular felt really kind of thrown together. And I don't know. To me, it just felt, I enjoyed the matches, and I think they're good. But I could certainly see, I was watching with my wife, and she'd say, give me a call when everyone gets in the ring. Why am I going to sit here and watch this for 30 minutes? There's no reason. There's no way that could end. The reason the Royal Rumble is so much fun is because there's eliminations. It's an hour-long match, but there's eliminations, there's surprises, there's unpredictability. This one, it's like they added a little bit this year by shortening the time, 3 minutes, I think, instead of 4 or 5. And then also they had the didn't have the shark cages, so you kind of saw everyone come out from the back and you didn't know who was coming out next. Added a bit to the unpredictability, but I do think the key here is adding some eliminations, adding some unpredictability. Maybe don't even announce the full teams until that piece of it. I think having a mystery component there can be fun. But yeah, just kind of, paint by numbers with these War Games matches. They don't really do it for me, despite the fact that I do enjoy them. And afterwards I go, wow, that was a lot of fun. But during the matches themselves, until everyone gets in the ring, it's like, what's the point? Why are we doing that? There's no advantage on really either side, because once somebody has an advantage, somebody else comes in and the match can't end until everyone gets in. So very strange. I don't know. That being said, again, I thought the War Games matches themselves were good. It just felt like, if you want to, I guess we could start with the men's War Games match, and then we'll work our way around. Men's War Games match, I thought, again, loads of star power. And I do think that was such a big reason why you had so many people jam-pack this stadium. The idea that you're going to be getting, Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes, the Usos, and CM Punk on one team. They said it's like the WWE Dream Team. And to a certain extent, it really was. It felt like such a huge match, having all these guys on one side. And even on the other side, Logan Paul doesn't wrestle every month. Brock's only wrestled one match since his return. Having the two of them involved. Drew McIntyre has been going for the world title. Obviously, you got Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker kind of on the rise there. So it made sense. Obviously, this would have been Seth Rollins probably instead of Logan Paul if he were around. But they did the best with what they had with the way the cards were dealt. And it really felt like just a build of the crescendo until Roman and Brock got in the ring. And it felt really big time once they finally did. I know a lot of people hate the run it back and are over the Uso stuff. People were into that, though. You cannot doubt that when he said, let's run it back, and they started the music back up, and he's on the top of that cage, and he's bop-a-da-bop-a-da-bop, doing the whole yeet thing, everyone in that stadium was going nuts, doing the yeet, and loved that part of it. There's a place for it, and clearly there's people who love it. And I know, from the character development standpoint, maybe it would have made sense to maybe turn Jey Uso heel here. It ain't going to happen. The guy's selling tons of merchandise. The guy's stuff sells out all the time. I was at that Madison Square Garden show a couple of weeks ago. Jey Uso stuff sold right out. My daughter's sitting on the couch, 5 years old, loving life with doing the yeet, and so excited when he ran it back. It is what it is. You can't hate on. You could hate on it. Maybe some people who do hate on it. But I just honestly do not see that they're going to ever certainly get rid of that right now and take away from something that is such a big part of the show, and remembering that it is still technically a PG product, and a major part of the audience is the kids who love Jey Uso and all of that. End of the show comes out. Obviously, they had a maxed man. At first, I thought, my goodness, they did another Seth Rollins injury angle. What are they doing? This is just silly. Obviously, that's not the case. They wanted to think that was Seth Rollins, and instead it was obviously someone in a hood, and we'll find out who that individual is. And probably tonight on Raw. And I will say, at a minimum, the end of that show, you were at least left with a cliffhanger of, okay, where do we go from here? And even though during the match itself, it didn't seem like there was a lot of, let's say, a sense of, I don't think there was a lot of dissension between Cody and Roman. It was very clear at the end of that match that the direction they're going for probably WrestleMania 42 is Roman and Cody one more time. They've had 3 WrestleMania main events in the past 4 years. You think about it, they had 39, 2 main events at 40, and they're bringing it back for 42. Obviously, the 40, only 2 WrestleMania main events in terms of them having one-on-one matches. I think the first night of WrestleMania 40 was probably more about Cody and The Rock. But with that being said, Roman and Cody were both in that match. So, I will say, do we need 3 WrestleMania main events for the same match? Probably not. It's probably a lot. But they've done a really good job keeping these guys so separate, other than very rare occasions over these past couple of years. Part of that is Roman's not on the show very often. But when they get together and when they have kind of any sort of interaction with each other, it does feel big time. And you have one clear win for Roman at 39, one clear win for Cody at 40. And there's a kind of a piece of this here, right? You go to 42, if they were to go back to Roman as your world champion, it makes sense. The product was never hotter with Roman Reigns as the world champion. There was a lot of interest in the product at when he was running things, even when he wasn't on the show every week as world champion. And it's certainly, having a second world champion now allows you to really do that. That being said, I think, would that then kind of be like an Ultimate Warrior situation where, He loses the title. You pass the torch moment. He's the standard bearer. He's leading WWE into the 90s, so to speak. And by the time 91 rolls around, Hogan gets that title back. And Warrior was never the same. So I don't know if that would damage Cody. I don't know if that would kind of take away a bit of that QB1 feel for him if you went back to Roman Reigns. But certainly a lot of intrigue. I do think that is the direction for WrestleMania 42, and I don't even really hate it. I actually think it's a good match. I would have liked, honestly, to see Roman and Punk one-on-one. I think that's a match that we've been building to for a very long period of time, but I don't think there's a problem having more matches like that. Another big story coming out of this match is that the end of the night, with Brock Lesnar involved and with Logan Paul and Drew McIntyre, it was Braun Breaker who was really the MVP of this match. Started out in the match with Punk, went the entire match, held his own for a guy with not a ton of experience, held his own with Punk, lasted through this entire match, and at the end of the match, it was Braun Breaker who got the win over CM Punk. Big time. I mean, the Braun Breaker train is coming very fast. I don't know if he's going to be the guy to win the Royal Rumble. Certainly Royal Rumble, that would be the next stepping stone for him. I don't think that's the direction they'd go just yet, but it could be. And certainly he now has a claim that he's pinned the world champion. So that Braun Breaker push, if he didn't think it was here yet, it certainly is coming. I thought he was the MVP really of that match. Women's match. I thought the women's match was very well done. Becky Lynch, a fantastic heel. And nobody can really say anything about Becky Lynch at this stage. A lot of people say, Becky Hogan, make the joke about her bearing talent. This woman does nothing but put everyone over. Everyone has ended their feuds with Becky Lynch in a much better place. And she made the babyface team look like $1 million. AJ Lee is right now, I'd say, probably right with Rhea Ripley as just super popular, super over. They have an ultra babyface in AJ Lee. I don't know how long her deal is, but certainly they can go all the way with AJ Lee. People just love her. Charlotte Flair came out. She had the gear that was dedicated to the fan in the front row who was wearing matching gear. Incredible moment there. Rhea Ripley comes out with the Terrifier collaboration. Rhea Ripley seems to have a collaboration in every city they go to. She's an absolute megastar for them. And this was good. I thought Lash Legend looked good in her first big high profile match. They saved Lash Legend for that final spot there. I was like, oh damn, the business is about to pick up. Here comes Lash Legend. So I'm interested to see kind of where they go with her and with Nia Jax. And really, I didn't think the match was bad at all. It just takes a long time to get to the points where it starts to get very exciting. So again, if they tweak that, I think there's something there with the War Games, but I do think they have to get to a point where they tweak that. Let's get to my favorite part of the show: John Cena and Dominik Mysterio. This was incredible. First off, Dominik Mysterio is, at this point, you have your upper echelon type guys, right? You have your Punk, you have your Cody, you have your Roman. Those are probably your three biggest stars on the male side of things. And then I'd say right below those guys, there's probably a couple others in there as well. Dom is right there. Dom felt like a huge ass deal as we built up to this Survivor Series show. All weekend, they had the mural painted of Ray and Dom. Dom was selling merchandise. Dom sold out his meet and greet. Dom sold out his meet and greet in New York City the week prior. Dom Mysterio is going to be a massive star for WWE. He's got charisma out the ass. Imagine this too. Like, you remember this kid who started coming up with Ray in 2020, what was it, 2020, 2021, 2022? And had, in my opinion, a charisma vacuum. Like, a nice enough kid. You liked him because you remember watching him grow up, but there was just something missing. And now it's like he comes out, he's got all the confidence in the world. You have music artists making a song, Susie O'Dom. He came out with so much aura, and the fake out of the botched move there where it looked like he got injured. They did such a great job with that. I was so surprised to see. It got me entirely, and I was like, oh man, what a tough break. That really stinks. What are they going to do? But it was perfectly done. Cena, give him a lot of credit. Second to last match, he's in there bumping his ass off for Roxanne Perez, bumping his ass, who did an awesome destroyer. You had Raquel also looking great there against Cena. And then the finish, which was done so well. The returning Liv Morgan, who comes out, place just went nuts for her. And it was funny because they had this moment where they were showing like who's showing up next to that women's commercial, and there it is. Liv Morgan ends up being showing up, and the second after this show, they should re-show that commercial, and Liv Morgan's at the table. I thought it was so cool. But Liv comes out, massive update. She runs in there, slaps Dom the piss out of Dom's mouth, and you're thinking, yeah, makes sense, right? She was the tag team champion, was Liv Morgan. She never lost that championship. Dom comes in. He never lost. There was never an issue where they kind of just replaced her in Judgment Day. Roxanne Perez took over for her, and Roxanne Perez eventually lost the title for Liv Morgan. So it made sense. She had all the motivation in the world to turn on Dom, turn on the Judgment Day. So she lays out Dom, and you're thinking, all right, makes a lot of sense. And then she jumps into Cena's arms, and I'm like, what is going on? And then they zoom in on, and then that, first off, I like that it ties back to a lot of what was going on with Cena, right? That was a throwback to obviously AJ Lee and kind of what she would do in 2012. And she obviously was involved big time with John Cena as well. But then they zoom in on Liv, and she's got this big smile on her face, and then she turns and she hits you with that throwback to the John Cena heel turn, and gets off and does the exact same thing he did to Cody. Oh, great, thanks so much. Bang! A little bit of a low blow. Place goes nuts. Dom gets the big, obviously hits the big frog splash, and wins back the Intercontinental title. What a moment for Dom in his home city in the 619. San Diego, California. He gets the big win. He gets the title. He gets the girl back. In all honesty, I don't know how you... Yeah, honestly, I would have closed with this match. I think that this match was that big. And this, with Cena being his final PLE, I really think he could have put this match on last. No reason not to. I mean, it was very hard. And unfortunately, Stephanie Vacour and Nikki Bella had to do their darndest to follow this match after 10 minutes of commercials and ads and silliness, but they had to follow this match, and tough one. I mean, tough spot, the toughest of the tough spots to follow this, because there was so much excitement around this match. It felt so great. It was the match that, my wife, who was kind of watching in and out, said, make sure you let me know there. I think she had said something like, because the script had leaked online of when where the match order was. I'll always spoil for myself because I love to know. And she was like, let me know when it's, when all the women are in the ring for the War Games. I'd like to see that. And then I want to make sure, obviously, I see Dom and Cena. And, Cena came out, great entrance, took it all in. If you remember back from the behind the scenes of the Royal Rumble, and he said, it's my last Rumble, I want to take that in. And Stu was like, well, you got to move quicker. He's like, no, I'm gonna take it in. So I'm like, Stu must have been going nuts behind the camera this time around. Cena was taking it in, but obviously well-deserved, an incredible, run here. Got one more date left. I'm excited that I'll be there for that. This should have closed the show. There's no reason. What a moment it would have been if this ended with the fireworks and Dom, Liv on the arm, holding up the IC title, both belts, 2 belts Dom. That was a missed opportunity, but fun nonetheless, especially because with the Max Man in that men's War Games, you can make a point that maybe there was a little anticlimactic, especially with so much star power there. I know it ended with the cliffhanger of Roman kind of going to Cody, hey, we'll never team again, which is kind of setting the stage for WrestleMania, and that's cool. Could have had that. You could have easily done Women's War Games, Stephanie and Nikki, Men's War Games, Cena and Dom. And I really think that there was a lot. Once Cena and Dom ended, especially on such a high level, I do think there was took them a longer time to get everything back. And unfortunately, it was at the expense of Nikki and Stephanie Vacour, who I thought had a very good match. I think if you went and just watched that match today, starting with that match, you'd probably enjoy it quite a bit. Unfortunately, I'm sure a lot of people were probably, moving around and getting up and walking around. It's a hard spot for anyone. They did the best they could. I thought it was a solid match. Stephanie is a huge star, going to be a huge star for them. Nikki Bella as a heel, I think, is much better suited for that role. And I thought they had a really solid match. Stephanie Vacour keeps the title. For me, it makes no sense. I thought the play here was to give the belt to Nikki as a heel and continue that build. Her turning heel and then not winning the title, a little surprising to me. But I guess we'll see kind of where it goes from there. Overall, Survivor Series, I do feel like 4 matches too little. You got to have a 5th match. It feels weird when there's only 4 matches on the show. I could accept it for the Rumble. And again, this show was 3.5 hours long. There was nothing on this show, but a lot of the reason it was 3.5 hours long was because in between each match, you had about a 10-minute, 15-minute break. And that is very UFC. If you ever watch a UFC show, which is 5 matches no matter what, UFC shows, it'll take, if there's a quick knockout, it'll take 15, 20 minutes until that next match starts, that next fight starts. And that's very clearly the model WWE is going with. But it makes it feel like every one of those matches needs to be absolute home runs. I do think that this one, you had very good matches, but I do think that 4 matches on the show is just, it's not enough, especially when 2 of those matches are War Games matches, which in my opinion, even though it's very impressive, even though there's a lot of action in the matches, nothing feels important until 30 minutes into the War Games match. My thoughts, who knows, maybe you're with me, maybe you're against me. Let me know in the comment section below. Fun time to be a WWE fan, man. This was still cool. It was so cool to see 45,000 people there over Thanksgiving weekend, and interesting to see what the future for Survivor Series is. Interesting to see what the future of the John Cena tournament is. People will be back to break that down with you all way later on this evening. The sun is coming out. It's time to start our Monday. Have a good week. I'll catch you on the next video.